Hello there. It's not just the ordinary EU voter that is becoming far right. It now looks like the Berlin police is following suit. This'll give the woke lefties the vapours. An important part of the EU establishment, the Berlin police, is coming out with statements that will appall the wokesters out there. How dare she, will be the scream. The Berlin police chief, Barbara Slovic, has broken all the woke taboos and is openly stating that violence in Berlin is mainly down to, shock, horror, young men of non-German descent. Well, wow. To put it bluntly, Slovic said, according to our figures, the violence in Berlin is young, male and has a non-German background. This also applies to knife violence. How can this be? Surely she's just being racist. What else could possibly explain this outburst? And she also said that respect for her police officers has been declining. The threshold for attacking a police officer, even if it is just by shoving them, has also dropped significantly. Now, on the violent crime bit, Slovic also said, the police crime statistics distinguish between German and non-German suspects, and in recent years we have seen an increase in violent crime overall, as well as in the number of non-German criminals in the capital. Non-Germans are overrepresented. Ah, that explains it. The Germans have been taking crime statistics about whether the offenders are German or non-German, so that must be the problem, not racism. But surely taking ethnicity into account is a racist crime in its own right. I mean, we would never allow such an atrocity here in the UK, would we? In fact, I can hear Keir Starmer sharpening his prosecutor's pencil right now in preparation for the UK taking Germany to the European Courts of Human Rights for such blatant disregard of equality, etc., etc., etc. But he will also, no doubt, at the same time, be insisting on employers providing more data on gender and ethnicity-based wage inequality, won't he? But there'll be no massive investigation into the underrepresentation of women on the dust carts, will there? And when the so-called wage inequalities are reversed and white men end up at the bottom, it will suddenly be extremely racist to gather and disseminate such data. So you can see how this operates, can't you? So if London was in the same situation as Berlin, could you envisage the Met boss Sir Mark Rowley or his boss Mayor Sadiq Khan ever uttering the same sorts of words as came out of Barbara Slovic's mouth? Not a chance. It would never happen. Because, of course, we have no stabby violence problem in London, do we? Let alone where there were different groups of people under and overrepresented amongst it. But I bet you if stats were published that showed that young white males were the problem, the entire planet would be told 10 times a day about it. Wouldn't they? And on wider violent crime in Germany, the newspaper Welt am Sonntag said, one thing is certain. Many people's sense of security has deteriorated. These are incidents that have shaken the country. Knife attacks again and again committed by people who had fled war zones and found a new home in peace in Germany, and who then themselves became a threat to public safety. Has the German press lost its mind? How dare they spread such divisive utterances? But there's more. Violent crime continues to rise, and people without a German passport are significantly overrepresented in the statistics. Nobody is talking about isolated cases anymore. Now, how would all this be approached by the UK mainstream press? And how many people would be calling for that police chief sacking in the UK, or worse? Surely it has been proven time and time again that not looking back in anger and using Facebook filters and Twitter emojis while keeping the whole sorry set of affairs off of the front pages is the only way to combat this sort of violent behaviour. I mean, that approach has worked magnificently so far in the UK, hasn't it? An approach of appeasement that has had absolutely nothing to do with 6 in 10 violent crime suspects in Germany now being newcomers. While in the UK we hear constant talk about shutting up for the sake of diversity, i.e., if we don't talk about it, the problem will just go away. But that doesn't apply to Gaza, does it? And if you even hinted at telling people to shut up about child poverty or the gender glass ceiling. Funny how talking about some things is needed to cure the problems, but least said, soonest mended on other issues. Very strange. And the left have other ways of making their voices heard, and their voices alone. A group of Marine Le Pen's activists, including a parliamentary candidate, were campaigning in Saint-Étienne in the Loire on Friday, reports Breitbart, when a group of hard left-wing thugs, dressed all in black with masks, attacked them, leaving the National Rally candidate, 70-year-old Hervé Bruil, who was fitted with a pacemaker, having a stroke after being kicked, and he was rushed to hospital. Marine Le Pen said that this was a cowardly attack by the ultra-left militias, and that an electoral campaign in a democracy cannot allow this unleashing of ultra-violence from an extreme left ready to do anything to sow chaos. Well, it looks like the European Union, especially the main two engines of it, France and Germany, are not in good places right now. And there is a swing to right-wing politics as well, as the EU electorate decides how it wishes the problems to be dealt with. And judging by the popularity of one song being sung by large swathes of the football-supporting population, it's not all about welcome and inclusion. Ban football would probably be the establishment knee-jerk reaction. Maybe the people of Europe are fed up with having their noses rubbed in the UN and WEF supranational-style bodies' vision of diversity. But while this goes on in the rest of Europe, here in the UK we still have the deluded following their woke manual. The Victoria and Albert Museum being one such body. They've declared that in order to reflect the wider society, 70% of their staff will be women and 30% men. What twisted and demented planet are their trustees living on? Well, as that board of trustees is government appointed, then all is explained. And because only 25% of the staff are actually men and not 30%, they want to hire more men. But get this. They also want 20% of their staff to be non-white, but can only manage 17.2%. So you know what the answer for them's going to be, don't you? More non-white men, of course. And now the University of Sheffield has been given about £1.5 million of taxpayers' money via the UKRI to decolonise UK folk music. The song All Around My Hat will become All Around My whatever. Pure, unadulterated idiocy, with a UKRI spokesperson spouting, UKRI invests in a diverse research and innovation portfolio. Decisions to fund the research projects we support are made via a rigorous peer review process by relevant independent experts from across academia and business. Yeah. More anti-UK nonsense from an activist civil service-run taxpayer-funded body. And people are going to give Keir Starmer and his motley crew of woke net zero maniacs the keys to number 10 and the Treasury. Joanna Marchong from the Taxpayers Alliance said, "The next government needs to clamp down on research councils to ensure that only worthwhile projects are being greenlit and that any funded research will be of value to taxpayers." The problem is that the woke-infested Labour Party does think all things woke and anti-UK are worth investing our money in. Get used to it. You get what you vote for.